Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. We are going to finish chapter 3 today, and I found you guys on the internet yesterday. You guys are here, right? Hopefully you don't end up like that in exams. Okay, for today we will finish talking about attachments, aging, sex, and gender. We will also talk a little bit about chapter 4, which is biopsychology. So let's do a small recap. Temperament. This is the biologically based emotional and behavioral tendency reacting to internal or external events. Attachment is an emotional bond with a specific person. Our attachment with caregiver usually forms at around 6 months to 1 year old. So that's the difference between temperament and attachment. So today we're going to talk about attachment beyond childhood. And we know that attachment styles generally carry over beyond the initial caregiver and child relationship. So now I want you to do a small discussion. So what do the different attachment styles look like in romantic relationships? What does it look like for secure attachments? What does it look like for avoidant? And what does it look like for resistance? Okay, now you guys can talk about it. Sorry, that was for the audio.
Where are you? Okay, are we good? All right, so someone want to tell me what does it look like for someone who has secure attachment styles when they're in a romantic relationship? Yes. Hold on. Your name is?
Oh, Jacob.
Jacob. Okay.
I was thinking that's more like toxic.
Toxic?
Yeah.
Or which one? Secure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But, so I was.
Yeah.
It just seems like you could care too much if they're there.
Okay.
Like that's more when Right?
No, you can tell me what you're
Oh,
thinking.
What we came to is that seems like you need them there with you at all times kind of thing, and that could become a little too much for some people.
Okay, so you think for secure attachment styles, as adults, they will want other people to stay with you all the time?
Yeah.
Okay, what do other people think? Ethan?
I kind of feel like secure is more of like a healthy thing, and it's less so that there's a stress when separated, but more like you miss your partner if you're separated from
Mhm.
them,
So-
in a more like mature way.
Okay, so which one will be the one Jacob described? They will want other people to be with them all the time.
It seems like ambivalent.
More like ambivalent, like resistant, right? Okay, cool. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I saw a hand over here. Yes, Claire?
I guess I can say something about avoidant,
Uh-huh.
because they don't care when their partner is gone. Maybe they'd be more likely to cheat on their partner.
Okay. So less commitment, is that what you mean? Okay. All right. Very good. What about ambivalent? Someone want to give me more details? Yes, your name is?
Garrett.
Garrett? Okay.
I think a resistant relationship would be like one partner is dependent on the other person, like for their happiness, and so they get upset if the other partner wants time to themselves, because they're relying on that person to make them happy, to make it happen for themselves.
Okay, so when you say rely on other people, don't we all kind of rely on our partner?
Yeah, but I mean, in like a bad way, like they feel
Okay.
like it's their partner's job to make them happy.
So you would say that's more extreme
Yeah.
on the spectrum? Okay. Okay. Nikki?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So for like ambivalent or like resistant, I was thinking about like that stereotypical like high school relationship where like you guys get together and you break up, you get together and you break up, you
Mm.
get together and you break up. 'Cause like you like miss them, like you want them there, but they're not like a great match. Does it make sense? Like you're like I don't know. That's just I don't know.
Okay. Okay. So you think that's more like high school relationship or typical high school relationship? They're flipping around. Okay. All right. Ethan.
Well, to me, it kind of seems like a toxic or like controlling relationship where
Uh-huh.
one person would be like, "Where have you been?" and were you like texting all that sort of thing, where
Mhm.
there's not very much trust.
Yeah, so that's kind of aligned to what we typically say it's a toxic relationship. It's when one partner asks the other person, where have you been? Like, I texted you like 5 minutes ago, you didn't respond. Or you can't sit over there because you can see more girls on that seat, so we need to switch seat. Something like that. So it's kind of a little over. Does that make sense? Okay. But we're not all like that, because we're talking about this as a spectrum instead of like a category. It's like, how secure do you have to be secure and not avoidant, or can you be like a little bit in between? Sometimes we can't. We're not saying, oh, if someone is secure attachment, they have to do this certain things and they don't do any other things. Does that make sense? Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. All right. Cool. Any other opinions on the attachment styles in romantic relationship? You good? Okay. So now I'm going to show you several scenarios, and then you tell me whether that's more likely to be a secure attachment style, or avoidant, or resistant, or ambivalent. Okay, so I am somewhat uncomfortable being close to others. I find it difficult to trust them completely, difficult to allow myself to depend on them. I'm nervous when anyone gets too close, and often love partners want me to be more intimate than I feel comfortable being. What kind of attachment style could this be? Maya? Avoidant? You guys agree? Okay, yes, so this is more likely to be avoidant attachment style. Okay, so I find that others are reluctant to get as close as I would like. I often worry that my partner doesn't really love me or want to stay with me. I want to merge completely with another person, and this desire sometimes scares people away. Anyone? Anyone else? What's your name? Lane. Okay. Resistant? Yes. So resistant or ambivalent. All right. Do you guys agree or think? What do you think, Marcus?
I was kind of thinking secure a little bit.
Secure?
Yeah. Only because
Do you want to explain?
I could try to.
Uh-huh.
I was just thinking because like it seems like they really, really want to get close to those people.
Yes.
So that's why I was just
Okay. So you think for secure attachment style, they want to be with other people? Is that what you're saying?
Like they want to get like really, really close. I was thinking like secure, they're like really close, and then it said like when the baby got separated from its mother, distressed and stuff like that. Like this seems like someone that would be kind of like distressed when they got separated from their partner.
Okay, so let's look at it this way. If they are together, they still worry that their partner don't love them as much. And they worry that their partner will abandon them. Do you think that's secure? No, not really, right? Because you're worried about the relationship. You're not being securely attached to this person. If you're securely attached to this person, it will be more like this scenario. So I find it relatively easy to get close to others and comfortable depending on them and having them depend on me. I don't often worry about being abandoned or about someone getting close to me. So that's more like secure attachment style. Does that make sense? Okay, questions? You good? Very good. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a chart that kind of summarize what they look like for different attachment style. So for secure, their relationship with others is usually trusting, and they usually have long-lasting relationship. Their behavior is they tend to seek out social support. They're not afraid to approach other people, and they're not afraid when other people approach them. Okay. For ambivalent, they are reluctant to become close to others, and they may worry that their partner doesn't love them. That's why they have a lot of behavior like, why don't you text me back? Don't you love me? Why would you talk to other people? Something like that. Does that make sense? So ambivalent and avoidant, they're both in the insecure attachment type. So last time we said that we have 4 types. Do you remember which 4 types? Anyone? Yes?
Secure, avoidant, resistant, and disorganized.
Okay, very good, very good. So that's the 4 types, but in the big picture, we actually have 3 main categories. So secure is one category, insecure is the second category, which includes ambivalent and avoidant. Then lastly, we have the disorganized category. Okay? All right. So for avoidant, they tend to invest little in social and romantic relationships. They don't take initiative to get close to other people or seek social support. They have trouble sharing thoughts and feelings with others. Any questions? Okay, so now, based on what we have just learned, do you consider yourself to be a secure type of person, avoidant, resistant, or not sure. You don't have to tell me. Usually we have the eye clickers so that we can see what is it like in the class, but being anonymous. Now we're not doing the eye clicker thing because we have online students as well. So just think about it, which one applies to you more. Yes?
Does it like, does the fact is, I'm not gonna phrase this, but like, if you're extroverted or like introverted, does that affect which kind of attachment style you are?
Okay, so you asked whether extroversion or introversion affects attachment style, right? So they can overlap, but that will be personality types. And we are going to talk about that just in a minute. So you need to understand temperament is different from attachment style. Attachment style is different from personality style. So they could overlap. Sometimes they could be consistent with each other, but sometimes they're not the same thing.
So you could have like an extroverted avoidance?
It could be. Yeah, so I'm going to show you what I mean in the next slide. That's a good question though. Okay, so if you really want to know your personality type, remember last time we talked about using Myers-Briggs is not a valid nor a reliable measure. This one is valid and reliable. I'm going to show you my results. So this is called the Big Five, and we're going to talk about this in more details in the social psychology chapter. I think it's later in the semester. But if you're interested, go ahead and do this on your own. It's about 10 minutes survey. It gives you a lot of details. Okay, so this is me. I did this yesterday. So general, it's a yellow box here. So in general, for all people, I am in the secure type, but I'm a little anxious and a little avoidant. So this axis is about how avoidant you are, and this is how anxious you are when you interact with other people or in a relationship. My father, me and my father's relationship, I'm not anxious at all. It's like 1, it's very low, but I'm a little avoidant. So I'm a little high on avoidance. So it means that maybe I don't talk to him about everything. For my partner, my friend, and my mother, they're all the same. So I'm not anxious when I'm around them, but I'm a little avoidant towards my friend, my mother, but not my partner. So my partner, I'm not anxious or avoidant. So I can talk to them about everything, and I don't feel like I might get offended or I'm worried that they don't love me. Does that make sense? So when you go in, you can see your attachment style, and they have some explanations at the end. If you don't remember what I just said, it kind of helps you understand what it's like for you. Okay, next. This is comparing my attachment styles with other people who took the test. So here you can see I'm a little bit more secure than the average. I'm a little less anxious than the average, and I'm not avoidant at all compared to the average. It means I am very approachable, which means if you have questions, feel free to ask me. Don't feel distant or something like you're intimidated. Just talk to me. Okay, and this is scientifically proved, right? This is my personality type. This kind of answers your question. So the Big Five, we call it the ocean. O-C-E-A-N, ocean. It's on the other way here, but that's how we remember it. E means extroversion, so how extroverted I am. A is agreeableness, a tendency to compassionate or agree with other people. So if I'm more agreeable, means I'm more likable, so people like me because I listen to them and I kind of agree with them. And then conscientiousness is the tendency to be organized and dependable. Neuroticism is the tendency to experience unpleasant emotions easily. So you're very neurotic. And this is openness. It's open to new experience. For me, I'm pretty extroverted. I'm very agreeable, so I can take criticism very well, and I can talk to people easily. Conscientiousness, I like organization. I don't like chaos. That's why my syllabus is very organized. It has every details that you need to find. Neuroticism, I'm not neurotic. So when people, so this happens very often on the basketball court. So when people be rough or play dirty, I don't get mad easily. This is a saying during work environment too. I don't get mad easily. So that's neuroticism. And then lastly is the openness to experience. So I love experience new things. I like novelty. That explains why I came to the US by myself 10 years ago. So I'm not afraid of new environments. That's openness. Okay, any questions on the personality types? Yes?
So can these change over time?
Yes.
They're not temperament?
Yes, so they can change over time, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Okay, so here is how narcissistic I am. Do you think I am narcissistic? Based on this graph, or based on just the interaction with me?
The y-axis.
Yeah, I'm going to explain that in a little bit, but just based on your impression of me, do you think I'm narcissistic? So Carter says no. Well, if you think I'm narcissistic, that's fine, because you just saw that I'm very high on agreeableness, and I'm very high on open to experience, and I'm not neurotic. So you can tell me if you think that I'm narcissistic. No one? Oh,
I
yeah.
don't see you as very
What?
narcissistic. I just see you as a really confident person.
Okay, so you will say I'm more confident than
Absolutely.
narcissistic. Okay, okay. All right, any other thoughts? Or if you think that I'm narcissistic, that's fine. Because I thought I was narcissistic too. When I was doing the survey, I answered a lot of yes questions. Well, not yes questions, but like alternative. You have to choose one or the other. A lot of the items, I thought that will make me very narcissistic. Turns out I'm not. So this is how many people. So most people are in this range. If you are high on narcissistic, you are over here. Does that make sense? So I'm actually pretty low, which is surprising. Maybe confidence is a better word. Okay. But if you're interested in this, go ahead and take it, and don't be afraid to answer the wrong item. There's no wrong item. Just pick the one that applies to you the most. Does that make sense? And don't worry that, the result is going to show that I'm very narcissistic, because that's what I thought too, but maybe it's not. Okay. So this is how attachment styles can change over time. The first time I did it was almost 4 years ago, 2017. At the time, my general attachment, it's still everything is still in the secure category, but you can see that at the time I was pretty avoidant and pretty anxious in general compared to what I am now. Same with my partner, with my mother, father, and friend. So this is what it looks like, changes over time. So this happened like a month after I took the first, and this is a year later. And this is now. I forgot to do it in between. So usually I set a reminder to do this hopefully every year. or every time there's major event happens in my life. I try to do that, but I just forgot. Grad school is tiring. But if you're interested, you can do this throughout the years and you will see what it's like for you. Personality as well, you can change over time, but they're kind of stable. Same with attachment. You will see some changes here, but mostly they will stay within the same category unless you went through therapy or you went through something very, very big in your life that might change this. Okay, so this is my subjective well-being across time. The first time I did it, I didn't feel very well at the time, and now I'm up here, I think, because I'm graduating, so I'm happier. Okay, any questions on that survey or exams? Good? Okay, if you're interested, go ahead and do it. So attachment across the lifespan. We know attachment functions gradually shift from parents to other people as well. So peer attachments, they seem to be consistent with your primary caregiver attachments. It means that secure tends to stay secure. If you're avoidant, you tend to stay avoidant. So what we found is that secure attached children, they tend to have stronger friendships. They tend to have better EQ, which is emotional, what's Q? Quality? I forgot. Like IQ, EQ, what Q stands for? No one knows? All right, that's good. I don't know either. All right. And then they tend to have more positive self-concepts. Kind of makes sense, right? So how you interact with your parents and your peer will be correlated with all those things. However, attachment patterns, they are not set in stone for infancy, so you can change that. Insecure attached children, they can also gain secure attachment with other influential people later in life. We call those differently. So if you naturally have a secure attachment style, we call those, I think, continued attachment style. But if you have this later gained attachment style, we call it the gained secure attachment style. So they're different. Any questions? Good. Okay. So now we're going to talk about aging. So development across the lifespan. Our development, they don't stop once we reach adulthood. We know that, right? So there's a phrase, it's called from womb to tomb. Okay? So we accumulate knowledge and experience throughout life, and we have fundamental changes in our roles when we grow up. For example, we might become parents, we might become grandparents, we're students, and then we are the workers or something else, right? You're not students anymore. We also have changes in cognitive and physical functioning. That's why we have more variability among older adults than the variability among younger adults. Before they gain those knowledge, experience, their changes in roles, they have very similar experience as kids, relatively, right? Right? They went to school, they had fun with their parents, okay, very similar experience. Okay. All right. So for the periods of adulthood, first we have the emerging adulthood, that's you guys, from age 18 to 25. During this time, you tend to have the identity crisis because you're trying to develop an integrated self-image. You don't really know who you are trying to figure out. You're trying to figure out from yourself and from your peers, from your parents. but this is the peak of your physical health. So you have the best strength, the fastest reaction time, and all that good stuff. And then we come to early adulthood. That's me, ages from 25 to 40. So everything starts to go downhill there. Your eyesight, your hearing start to go downhill. Your health start to go downhill. So during this time, during your adulthood, emergent adulthood, it's the least likely that you will get ill from disease, because your immune system is the best at the time. And then we come to middle adulthood. That's from age 40 to 65. That's when we see very obvious loss of sharpness in our vision, in our hearing. We also have menopause during this time. We might see very obvious weight gain. And then we see that reaction time becomes slower during this period of time. And then we have the late adulthood, that's ages 65 or above. So we will see a big decline in functioning, especially physical functioning, in the late adulthood. Okay, any questions on the periods of adulthood? Good. Okay, cognitive aging. We have crystallized intelligence. Those are the accumulated knowledge and verbal skills. And they tend to increase with age. And that's what we call wisdom. Okay. And then we have the fluid intelligence. That's your ability to solve problems and learn new things. And this tends to decrease during late adulthood. That's why we see our parents or our grandparents, they don't learn new things as fast as we are, right? They don't adapt to new environment as fast as we can. All right, questions on those terms? Yes, Marcus?
I have a question, so can you go back for 1 second?
This one?
Yeah, thank you.
Hmm? Good. All right. Okay, so what causes memory declines? Working and short-term memories, they deteriorate as we age. Our processing speed decreases. It's like a computer. The older it is, the slower it is. Our senses deteriorate, and less information made it to our long-term memory because of that. And we're going to talk about what working memories or short-term memories or long-term memories are and the differences between them in later chapters. So Alzheimer's, this is not a normal aging, but it's very common. Okay? This is a progressive and irreversible brain disorder. So we see cells, the cell death starts in our hippocampus and it spreads to other area of the brain. And we see gradual deterioration of memory, reasoning, language, and finally physical functioning, ending in death. And this affects around 5.5 million people in the United States. So it's kind of common. A quick way to try to prevent Alzheimer's is to exercise physically. Also mentally, that would be great too. So research shows that if you keep your body healthy and you keep your mind healthy, you work on puzzles or you work on problem solving throughout life, you're less likely to have Alzheimer's at older age. That's why you should always interact with your grandparents. Don't just let them be by themselves. They don't have anything to do. They just sit around being bored. That will affect their cognitive ability as well. Okay. So self-perceptions of aging. The subjective age is how old do you feel? Lower subjective age indicates better physical health, better mental health, and better cognitive functioning. People over 40, they tend to report feeling younger than their actual age. So in this sense, age is just a number. So some amount of age-related change is inevitable, but there is a subjective component to the aging process. In order to have successful aging, we need to have good education, just overall good education. You know more stuff, you're more intelligent, you gain more knowledge about how to maintain your health. And then keep healthy and make sure you're physically fit. Have plenty of mental stimulation. So don't just sit around when you're bored. Maybe play some games, even video games. That helps with your eye-hand coordination. It makes your brain doing some kind of work. Okay. And if you have a greater acceptance of change due to aging, you're more likely to have a successful aging process. Okay. So in summary, our fluid intelligence, our recall of information, working memory, processing speed, inhibitory functioning, vision and hearing, they all decreases with age. But our crystallized intelligence increases through age, and we have a greater cognitive efficiency. It means that we take less effort to achieve the same results because we have more experience compared to younger adults. Okay. And what's remained the same is our ability to recognition. So that's to recall some information with cues. So recall is you try to remember something without cues. Let's say I try to ask you something happened way back, but I don't give you any cues. But if I ask you something way back, but I give you some kind of cues like what happened that day, maybe 9/11, what were you doing that day? Those are some cues. So those are more like recognition. And we'll talk about this in the cognitive chapter. So don't worry if you don't really understand what this are right now. Okay, questions? Yes?
Is the recognition different than with Alzheimer's patients? Like, they have decreased recognition?
We will talk about that. It's a long process, but you'll see it's very important. The recognition and the recall is different for Alzheimer's as well. Okay. Next, we're gonna briefly talk about sex and gender in psychology. So, physical sex. Oh, that means physically being male or female. Those are biology based. And then we have gender roles. Those are more about culture. So behaviors or appearances associated with being a male or a female. So this can be the biological, social, or cognitive. When you see different terms in your textbook, they mean different things, even though sometimes we use them interchangeably. Lastly, we have gender schemas. Those are more personal. So those are the generalizations about what is appropriate for boys and girls. Do I need to give examples for each, or you kind of understand what they are? Yes?
Maybe just the last two.
Last two? Okay, so gender roles, let's say behaviors and appearance. if I have very long hair and then I'm wearing dress, you think that's not very appropriate, right? So that's gender roles. And then gender schema is like, do you remember schema? So those are knowledge. So what you remember as a boy or a girl. So when you see someone, you can kind of identify whether that's a guy. I know you 90% is I'm pretty sure you're a guy, right?
Yeah.
So that's your schema. Yeah. So does that make sense? So this is, and culture can change because in some other area, men might wear dress as well. So for them, those are normal. So that's more cultural based, and this is more personal based. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How much time do we have left? About 10 minutes. Okay, so for unknown reasons, color patterns changed around the 1940s when clothing manufacturers decided on pink for girls and blue for boys. Before that, what was that? Oh, I heard something. Okay, so before that, we don't really have that schema or like a cultural norms that blues are boys and pink are girls. So before 1940s, regardless of color in both cases, boys and girls, they both wore dresses. You want to take a guess who this is? Anyone? You don't even want to guess? Yeah.
I'm gonna go with girl.
Girl? Okay. Uh-huh. Boy. Right. Well, it's a psychology class. If I'm asking you, it should be a boy, right? So this is President Roosevelt in 1884. Yeah, he looks like a girl here with all that. Okay. All right. Any questions before we go to chapter 4? All right. Yes, Marcus?
What caused the change that happened?
For
It says for unknown reasons.
yeah, for unknown reasons. Maybe you could ask the manufacturers. Maybe they just decided. Yeah. Yes, Nikki.
So for like the dresses, like
Mhm.
was it just easy to change the designer or something? Well,
Oh.
why did they, like, you never knew like why dresses were, you
I don't know. I think for little kids' dresses, they also have something under there, like a underwear type, right? Okay. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. All right. So chapter 4, biopsychology. I'm going to show you this short clip. It mentions all the parts that we are going to talk about in your brain. Oh, wait.
And now, the parts of the brain, performed by the brain.
Yes. Neocortex, frontal lobe,
Brainstem!
hippocampus, neural node, right hemisphere, pons and cortex, visual,
Brainstem!
Sylvian Fisher, pineal, left hemisphere, cerebellum left, cerebellum right, synapse, hypothalamus, striatum, dendrite. Axon fibers, matter gray,
Brainstem!
central tegmental pathway, temporal lobe, white core matter, forebrain skull,
Brainstem!
central fissure, cord spinal, parietal, diameter, meningeal vein, medulla oblongata, and lobe limbic, microelectrodes, the brain. That ought to keep the little squirts happy.
So that will help you remember the location of the brain and the name of the brain on the exam. Okay. Does it seem a lot to remember? Yeah. Do you want to remember them? No. We had to remember them when I was in undergrad. I don't remember if it's for an intro class, but for a biopsychology class. But I was joking. You don't have to remember the location of the brain, but you need to know the functions, which part controls what. Because I don't see a reason to identify where they are for our class, unless you want to major in neuroscience or pre-med. But we have other majors here too, so I decided to just don't worry about the location. If you want to remember the location, feel free to do that. But that video definitely helps with the location and stuff. All right, so nervous system. Those are the network of cells that carries information from and to all parts of the body, which allows us to know what is going on outside and inside the body. And this connects one's body and mind. And we call that nervous system. Okay. For the nervous system, there are three basic functions. First, they receive input from the environment. So like light, smell, particles in the air, what else? Sounds. So those are inputs from the environment. And then they process that input, they integrate it with past experience. So when I see that, I know it's a light because that is consistent with my past experience, my schema of a light, right? And when I hear, I don't know, clap, that's sound that is consistent with my past experience. It's either people are applauding or I don't know what they're doing, but you know what I mean, right? Okay. And then third is they generate output. So we have our mental or behavioral responses to the input. For example, right now I'm showing you all this information, and now you are trying to process that information and you're taking notes, right? Or you're thinking, oh, this makes sense. Or you're thinking, this doesn't make sense. Or you're thinking, oh, this is boring, I want to go. So those are all the outputs, either mental or behavioral for you guys. Okay? All right. Any questions before we go to reminders? We good? Okay, so the quiz is due Monday, and be safe. I know more people got coronavirus on campus personally, so just be safe. Be careful. All right. Have a good weekend. Oh, yeah, question?
So reading the chapters, and at one point they talked about like how if you somehow sever the pathways between the two different lobes of the brain, like different functions will be messed up. I'm just curious, how would that have happened in the first place, where you would have had that severed? Like, is that just like a botched surgery, or? Yes.
So I think we will talk about some specific case in later chapters. Thank you. So basically, is they find out that doing that could prevent some undesirable responses like seizures.
Oh, okay.
Or schizophrenia, or some kind of mental disorder. People used to do crazy things on their brain, like they will try to have a needle go through the nose to the brain, and then to kill certain area, they call it lesions, just to get rid of certain part of the brain to treat mental disorders. Because at the time they didn't know what's going on when people are delusional and stuff. So that's why. Yeah, that's why we have some kind of crazy examples. Yeah.
Because I thought it was fascinating how you could flash an image that they could only see in one eye,
Yep.
and they couldn't like verbally say what it is, but they still were able to draw. Like, does that person know that they saw something, but they just can't verbally say that they know?
Yes. Yes. I think that's what happens, but no one really know, because if you never experienced it, how would you know? Also, that's like more philosophical.
Yeah.
How will we know that everyone sees the color the same way? How do we know that emotions, everyone feels emotion the same way? Like my happiness is the same as your happiness.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's a very deep but interesting topic.
Do you know if those people still have like the same motor skills and are able to like walk?
Oh yeah, they do. So I think it's only because we have very distinct areas for language or like logic. So when they cannot communicate, it's influencing certain parts of our functioning, like whether we can say what we see, something like that. But walking, you can still do that because your left brain kind of controls your right body, and then the other way.
So the lobes aren't completely disconnected in that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, so it's very hard to explain exactly what's going on, but what we know is that it does influence certain parts of our life, but exactly how it does that, it's still kind of hard to find out.
Huh, that's fascinating.
I know.
I also really like the section on like visual like illusions and how what you are seeing is not actually what exists. That was super interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.